Titanium armor, unboxed. You excited, Mew? You excited? Box opening technique. I'm excited. This is the armor I've been waiting a little more than a year to get back and repaired. Some of it's brand new instead of repaired. It's from Sir Mrks Hammerhand, or as people call him here, Mrks. So it should be some titanium plate armor, and I'm very excited. Some strapping tape on the box. As you would hope, the box is pretty light. Mrks has shipped a lot of armor around the world, so I don't expect there to be any problems. Gonna help this last bit, Mew? Lots of fiberglass strapping tape on it. Ooh, here we go. Right off the bat, there's two demi-gauntlets. These are in a new style for Mrks. This foam pad on the back is different than what he used to do, but this is his typical glove style. It's covered in contact cement, I think, to keep it alive longer. And you can see his hourglass shape. It's quite light, highly polished. And the hourglass bell keeps you protected from shots, but if you tip back, you've still got lots of room. Little tight that way, but I could probably loosen the glove and it would work. And then this one, you can see the bell is actually in leather. That's because Mrks knows that I'm left-handed, and instead of being a rigid steel bell that would dig into the back of a shield, this one can lay more flat, like that, against a shield. So these need a little breaking in, they're pretty tight. So these are cool. I think they're brand new because the ones that I sent in were made out of much more temporary material, but they might be just reworked. It's gonna take a little work to get these off, so I'm just gonna leave them on because I'm also excited. Oh, baby. So light. These are the new style shoulders. Much bigger. So they're almost pauldron size. Really nice articulation up here. And it's loose rivet articulation because titanium flexes and bends. So you can see some flex to it. Really nice polish. He used to hammer planish these, so there'd be all these little dents in them. Not so much on these. You can see the tips are curved up so they don't scrape. And it's got points to tie to the shoulder. Looks like that's gonna work pretty well. Might bind on me a little bit. We'll see. Depends on how well it floats on the rear brace, but I think it'll float really well. It's also padded really well. Mrks does stretch velvet wrapped padding. Oh, interesting, the pad actually sticks out lower to cover you on this one instead of being glued to this pad. That's cool. If titanium's hit and then it vibrates against your body, you'll get like a really strange vibration bruise, in a sense. It's hard to describe, but you don't want unpadded titanium because it's almost in some ways worse than getting hit with nothing to protect you. You can see his maker's mark there on the gauntlet too. Cool. Here's the other ones to the right. You can see they're asymmetrical. This is the right, I believe. Yeah, right. So this extra piece protects over some of the inside of your shoulder here. But it looks like there's not as big a flange on the back. These are cool. I've never fought with these before. Ooh, special treat. This is a basket hilt for a sword. So you can see these are much sturdier than my old ones, but it's still got a titanium tang as opposed to riveted bolted tangs. And these are semicircular. This is often where they'll crack, so this big semicircular cutout is to stop from cracks. That's probably drilled. You can see everything here, all the edges have been filed down or polished down as well. So that's how a basket hilt on a sword will work. This looks like a slightly different pattern than some of his older ones. I believe this one was going to Ian Gower at one point, but he snoozed and I win. Arm harness. All right, this is the right arm. Oh yeah, this is much, much thicker titanium than my old set. This is probably I don't know, 032, maybe 0.040. And a new way of articulating them. So I'm excited. So we've obviously got the vambrace. These are buckled vambraces. And it's got a titanium plate under here so that you can stretch it open and the titanium will squeeze it back shut. The material goes out past the edge so that when your arm wraps, you've got the padding, or sorry, I should say the padding goes past the titanium edge to protect your arm when you're fighting. This style with a strap on the outside of the elbow is a new style of strapping for Marcus. And then you can see the modern sports elbow pad is glued in. This fan on the outside is to protect the inside of your arms when a shot comes in, but there's no fan on the inside because that would get in the way. And this style of using, when this is flattened out, there's actually, the pattern has a big gap here. So to get that deep a dish in titanium, you actually need to squeeze it shut and rivet it here. That leaves a keyhole here that you cover with a separate cap. You can't dish titanium this deeply without it cracking. So it's the only way to get a tight elbow cop. And a nice elbow flare, and this is rolled out here so that the rear brace clears. But it's got this reinforcing line to keep it, to add strength. See, this doesn't flex or twist on you. Titanium normally flexes and twists a lot. So all this complicated dishing and all these lines help reinforce the shape. And then the rear brace, the upper arm, looks like it can strap to the shoulder here. Again, the padding extends past everything, and then what Marcus did, he told me, you can't see it in here, but there's an extra set of holes in this bottom plate, so if my biceps get bigger, there's not a lot of room. So there's a second set of holes where I can take these steel rivets out, stretch it out, repad it, and then rivet through the other set of holes so that they can be expanded. I'm going to take one of these demis off. Actually, I'll wait and put on the whole one. Oh, baby. This is exciting. So my whole leg harness, the upper legs were replaced. The greaves were just repaired. I believe these are the pads. Yeah, these are the pads I sent him. So, but there were some, you can see these creases in here. He's hammered a lot of these out. These, as you can see, are out of much, much thinner titanium. I think this is 0.025. I actually made these back in the day, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I made these. So it's just 3 pieces because you can't roll titanium this well. Just steel riveted, overlapping. These grommets are so that you can put leather ties on your boots or your fighting shoes. You pull them through and tie a knot. I often don't because they stay in place pretty well. But Marcus has replaced the buckles, cleaned up the edges, removed the big dents, and polished them for me, which is awesome. And these, yeah, replacement buckles. My buckles had been breaking off and I was using cheaper pop rivets to put them on. So, or not pop rivets, but 2-piece nickel rivets, and Marcus has replaced all these buckles for me, which was really nice. There was a big crease in the left one. The only difference between left and right on these is the orientation of the pad that's contact cemented inside. So, to keep the twist right, the titanium itself is the same. Yeah, you can see this big crease here. Originally, he's taken the crease out and sort of looks like this one he redished for me, or it just got flattened in the box a bit. But that was from Sir Luther falling on my leg, and this probably saved me from a broken leg. It wasn't his fault. He got knocked down in a melee. It looks like this one's a new pad, too. So he's done some work there for me. It's really nice. Sweet. So that's the lower leg protection. And it can be lighter titanium because you don't tend to take hard shots in the lower leg. In most organizations, it's allowed, but it's not a great shot to throw. And in the SCA, it's not even allowed to hit someone in the lower leg. So it's protection against incidental contact. Like the arms, which were replaced entirely, I had old CP3 elbows, which were a weaker alloy, and this is all of this, I believe, is 6Al4V. So 6 aluminum, 4 vanadium. So I had CP3, which was a weaker alloy, and the rear brace and vambrace were 0.025, which is really thin because that's all you could get on the market at the time. 10 years ago, getting .040 and .032 was really tough. These are also brand new. Oh man. That's exciting. Badass. Okay, so you can see it's obviously a cuisse, 5-piece articulated knee, and a demi-greave. And you can hear how much noise they make. That's because this is a loose rivet articulation style, which is pretty much what it seems you have to do with titanium. And you can see that the knee cup is actually, unlike the elbow, because it can be a bigger shape, because your knee is bigger than your elbow, it doesn't need to be built in the same way. But you can still see you can only get about this much dish in them before they break, and that's a lot of heat treating and stuff like that to keep annealing them, because titanium work hardens so much. I don't know how many, Marcus might have been able to do this in one try for both knees, or he might have broken 2 or 3 just trying to get them done, because they work harden and snap. But you can see the same reinforcement here. And then the rivets themselves are loose, so a lot of the articulation comes from the rivets, the rivet flexibility. If you make really, really tight articulations and then you dish these lames, you can see they're almost, if they're dished, they're not dished much at all. They're sort of flat articulations, sort of like a munitions grade, like lower quality armor in steel. Because titanium flexes, you can see all that flex. I'm not pushing hard at all. Because it flexes, if you make a super tight articulation where you couldn't see daylight between the pieces, it'll flex and then gap, and the articulation will pop out, and then you'll get jammed open, and you need to basically take out the rivets to fix them. And that will happen all the time if you make a tight articulation. So with flat lames and a rivet articulation, like munitions grade armor, there's much more overlap between the pieces, and it's not likely to pop on you. These are gorgeous. I think this is .040. He did the, I asked for the spade shape fans. He also does like a bone shape, which is like a double, like a club, like a club playing card. And then this is a new thing. I think he added these. There's a little bit more protection for the back of the leg. I think these were first added for the ACL fighters who do the steel combat, Battle of Nations type stuff. You can see inside, these are the loose articulations. Adjusting them requires some work, so this was probably the original rivet point, and then there was some adjustment to get them just right. I've made some of these legs before. I needed way more redos and retries. And then you can see you've got several straps. You've got upper leg strap, lower leg strap. These rivet to the cuisses. He hasn't punched the holes in these yet because he didn't have my leg there to try them on. And then there's a hip buckle and a cross strap. This is how we traditionally, Marcus came up with this style. It works really well. It keeps the leg from spinning because it's hanging from 2 different points. Gorgeous work. And then a ton of work doing the padding. With the legs, it's less important that the padding go out past the edge of the titanium, because you're never bending your leg in such a way that the meat of your leg wraps around one of the plates, whereas you do that on the arms all the time. So that's the right. Here's the left. Polish. I guess he wanted to leave some polishing work for me. Polishing titanium is annoying, and that's probably my penance for making him do so much awesome work for me. Okay. Last but not least, the other arm. Badass. Looks like pretty clean articulation. Marcus also has a style that has a thick band going over here that offers you protection if your arm is wide open like this. And you take a shot, it is possible that the fan doesn't protect you. You take a blow on the inside of the arm, and by having a really long strap here, it would go like over here, this far. That's why it sticks out from the elbow so far. And doesn't get in your way very much, but it gets in your way just a little bit. So I decided I didn't want that style. I'm willing to take the little bit of extra risk that I take a shot on the inside of the elbow. His armor has that strap to protect. Cool. So I think I'm going to try these on. Exciting. Awesome. I gotta pull these off first. I put my shoes on before my pants. Okay, so I took a little time. I got the holes punched in the straps in roughly the right places, and I'm finally wearing the new kit. As you can see, it suits pretty well. This breastplate is a loaner from Sir Mrks, so this is not part of the delivery. It's just to help flesh out the rest of the kit and give me a place to sort of temporarily mount the shoulders. So, first off, awesome. Really like some of the new stuff. Greaves fit much the same as they always did. The knees, I probably need to tighten the strap up a little bit, but the knees are pointing really well. And the new wrap plate on the cuisse is quite nice. It actually cups the leg really well, so you almost it almost holds itself until you put the straps in place. If you drop to your knees and fight from your knees, it does dig in right here. So if I do end up fighting from my knees ever, I will need to sort of be upright in a stance like this because I can't put my butt all the way down to my shoes, but that's okay. Just try not to get hit in the legs very often and don't fight from my knees if I can help it. It seems kind of silly to me anyway that we do that. Arms are doing really well. This probably, I'm gonna have to rotate these vambraces a little bit. You can see that my hand rotation has, I go from here, so the top, this is now the top of my arm, and when I rotate fully to supinate, this is still, it feels like the vambrace should be rotated around this way about 90 degrees, but it works well. There's enough room for me to rotate in there quite freely. I've still got a lot of wrist motion with the demi, the way it overlaps. Sliding down on me a little bit, but it works really well. And I can fully close my arm pretty easily. The elbow, sometimes I've noticed the fan is getting caught inside, sometimes it goes outside, so I probably need to figure that out. I think that has to do with the arm twist. You can actually see where it's scuffing a bit, but I can probably adjust that. And you can see that the when I straighten my arm, the harness rotates on me a little, so it might be a fit and adjustment thing. So that should be a little bit more where it sits, I think. But it's doing really well, quite similar to my old arm harness. And the shoulders here, this is a new style of shoulder for me, so you can see that we currently have this buckled at the tightest to keep the shoulder in place. The pauldron should be pointed to something. The only gambeson I have with shoulder points on it won't, because it's got padded arms, won't fit with the arm harness. So right now, because I'm kind of cobbling things together a little bit, not everything is 100% gelling. When I get my body harness back and my gorget and the codpiece and the rest of the stuff that's out there, I'll be able to do a more permanent solution. But it seems like it's working pretty well. This breastplate doesn't fit me very well. So I may or may not fight with this, but I need something to tie these to. And I'm in a bit of a position where the shoulders, as you can see, want to roll forward on me right now. That was actually the case with my old design as well. Or the prior design, it wasn't mine, but the old shoulders I had. So I might actually, you can see where the leather is pointed, where the two holes are. I might actually move that down here because it feels to me like what the shoulder wants is to sit up here. And those ties then would be right up by my neck. So I could also potentially tie to a gorget. And I've got a loaner gorget that I'm going to give that a shot with after I hop out of this thing. So I might fight without body armor. Just wear like a zoom bang shirt, tunic over top of that or something. Because this is really cool, but doesn't fit me very well. So it's not a critical part of the kit. I also presently have these front straps, probably the hole punch just a little short, but I wanted to the point where if I end up quite crossed, it's not pulling the belt down. Most of the support is coming from this hip strap, and this strap sort of stops the leg from spinning traditionally. But with the new cuisse wrapper, I don't think the leg wants to spin. The knees are hitting in just the right spot. Marcus sometimes recommends using this strap. I've got a second hole here, and instead crossing these straps entirely across the front to put this basket up now. To this position, and then you put your codpiece on top of that so that it floats with an external codpiece. That's not ready yet. You can see this is the other strapping method, so I'll see what works best. I'm going to punch a bunch more holes as well, but what I wanted to do is get the first hole right, And then if I got things right, then I can always say, I can punch 3 holes to one side and 1 hole to the other, and I always know go to the second to last hole on all of my different straps. So that's the objective, because previously I had, you know, this one goes to the 8th hole, this one goes to the last, this one, you know, so when you're armoring up and you're thinking about stuff, it's a little easier if you've set your straps to all go to the same hole. Yeah, very excited. So if I check out my body motion, the breastplate obviously is binding on me a bit, and I don't have a lot of cross body motion, but the arm harness is moving really well. It's pretty quiet. It is floating nicely. I was a little concerned that it was going to bind, but with this strap to the rear brace, it's floating nicely. And the only binding I'm getting is against the breastplate, so, you know, even if I throw like off-body back blade shots, pretty much anything I do, this arm harness is working really well for me. And it's actually, given that it's just tied to shoulder straps, it's holding in place really, really well, better than I thought it would. The leg harness, fantastic presently. I'm not gonna drop to my knees and scuff them up on this concrete here, but I've obviously got great mobility. The coverage is staying in place. It's not coming forward at all. I think I do need to figure out, I'm gonna need to replace these with a double buckle, I think, so that they don't come popping loose. You can see all of these are single buckles. They don't have a second, neither do they have a little clip that you would feed the tab through, nor are they a double buckle, so that's why they stick out like that. These ones in particular, the motion when you walk pushes the buckle back open, so I'll probably put a double buckle, but this hole I punched honestly a little too loose anyway. I did that when the greaves were in a slightly different position. So, working really well. It will be noisy. I'm used to kind of loose rivet articulation in legs, so that's just, it's noisy, but it's great. So no sneaking up and killing people from behind. You gotta earn it the old-fashioned way. Last but not least, I haven't mounted this basket hilt yet, but I thought I'd give a quick demonstration. This is just this doesn't have a shaved handle yet. This was painted by Duke Steer Car, but just to give a quick look for what it will look like once mounted. You can see these 2 tabs are formed to nicely squeeze the rattan already, and this bottom tab is got a nice little hook on it. So traditionally what you would do is throw a hose clamp on those. I might actually try not using a hose clamp and just using sinew or something instead, and some hot glue. Give that a try. I've been using hose clamps the whole time, but if I hold this in place here, you can see it's a pretty tight fitting basket hilt. There's not a ton of room inside, which is nice. And it's quite tall, this particular one. So I'm gonna give it a shot. I have a bunch of other slightly different basket hilts that Sir Mrks made as well. So I'm gonna give this one a try and see how I like it. And it is also gonna be really, really protective, obviously. So that's the kit. Very excited. Make a couple little tweaks, and you're always gonna do that. I think, you know, pop these 2 rivets, rotate the arm harness a little bit, punch or drill new holes, and just copper rivets, and bam. Yeah, really excited. I'm looking forward to fighting again. So I hope this was interesting, and I hope everyone gets to unbox a set of Mrks' armor. If you're interested in finding him, he does intentionally make it tricky because he kind of is in high demand, but it's spelled MRKS and Hammerhand. So Sir Mrks Hammerhand out of Ontario, and I'll include a link to where best to find his stuff. He used to run tiarmor.com for titanium armor. Anyway, I hope this has been interesting. Cheers.